know.
Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to the UpSet podcast. We are excited about this evening's show. And when I say we, you know who I'm talking about. The best crew in all the land. Hey, hey.
Hello.
Hey, guys. How's everybody?
Hello. Good. I'm really glad that the whole Brady bunch is here tonight.
Right?
You know, that is
It's a miracle.
Story. Lovely lady.
All right, watch. We might get it. Copyright strike.
Yes, it's great to have the bunch back again. Feels like home. And shout out to all of our viewers and listeners. Thank you for tuning back into the UpSet podcast. All right, crew. So what's been going on this week that's standing out for you?
Man, I think
hurricanes.
It's
hurricane season, and Ian is ravaging the southern states. But I'm grateful that my family's doing all right. A lot of folks are without power, but there's been a lot of devastation. Puerto Rico, Cuba, Bermuda, and even in our own country, there's a water crisis in the South. So there are a lot of people who are suffering right now as we approach these holiday seasons. So
How about that? Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah. I've seen some of the pictures. It's pretty devastating.
And supposedly a lot of deaths in Florida from the hurricane. It's so sad.
Yeah, the word is trickling in that there's been significant loss of life. And
oh my goodness.
And then when we get past the natural disasters, there are the human disasters. In the city of Philadelphia, we exceeded 400 murders on Monday for 1 year.
Goodness.
That was punctuated by the ambush of several kids leaving football practice and set upon by 5 young men who jumped out of a vehicle and literally ambushed them in broad daylight, firing almost 70 times on a city street. It's, how do you make these kind of kids? And more importantly, how do you change these kind of kids if you can?
Yeah, that's horrible. Like, I can't imagine. I saw some of my friends who their children play football. They're like, this is my worst fear. Like, of course, they want to encourage their children to participate in sports, but at the same time, the thought that they could go to a game or finish practice and be that's so scary to think that this is.
I did hear a little bit about that, Tally. Did many children die?
One of the kids, a 14-year-old, died. And there were 3. A 14-year-old died, and 4 others were shot. It is. We don't know what the real deal is on this yet, but this kind of conspiratorial ambush where they stole a car it's more to it than simply violence. And one of the things we're trying to get people to do is to stop using the expression senseless violence, because when you say senseless, it means that you can't understand what's going on. And if you can't understand something, you can't confront it and fix it. What we just have to do is figure out why, trauma-informed thinking says, what created this in a person? What happened to them? And we've got to change things to have children doing this kind of mafia gangster type of thing.
Kids. Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad. Really sad. Well, on a lighter note, today not just me, my husband and I are celebrating our 17th wedding anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to believe.
You got married when you were 40?
You know what, Sally? I thought that was going to be a compliment. And
oh, congratulations.
Marsha.
Happy
Always
anniversary.
was.
Yeah.
Thank you. What a ride it's been.
Too easy.
what I thought was a joke, actually, when I heard the headline about the morality police in Iran.
Morality
They arrested a young lady for not having her head fully covered.
Yeah.
And arrested her, and she was abused by the morality police, and she later died.
Yeah.
This is all
Beat her,
because of hair.
Yeah.
So sad.
You know, it just makes you wonder how far the adversary has us. You know, just it is amazing that they could justify arresting a young woman because just part of her hair was sticking out of the morality police. I thought it was a joke. I said, there's no such thing as a morality police, but they actually have that.
Yeah.
And they will arrest you.
And then they beat her so badly till she died. They beat her.
Right.
Well, I mean, that concept is not something that's too alien. I mean, at Oakwood, they used to have people measuring the hems of dresses and, you know, checking out how much makeup, you know, people were wearing. And I mean, you've always had people who felt that it was their duty to kind of oversee. You know, if I had a nickel for every time that when I was pastoring, where somebody said, "Pastor, you need to tell them girls in the choir that they need to wear," not me.
Yeah, Marcy, that's true.
I know Chuck and I, we usually talk about this with the drug. The FDA just approved a Lou Gehrig disease drug.
Yeah.
And of course, they say it works. You know what kills me about it more than that, as much as I'm happy to hear that, because that is a debilitating disease. It takes you down fast.
It does.
But it's
yeah.
But it's the amount of money that you have to pay just to get it. You know, but I'm glad that
for everybody.
Something. What? You said not everybody.
A question: what does it do? I mean, because you know you got the paralysis, and I mean, does it prolong the life? Does it prevent the paralysis of the body? What does it?
I don't know, physical therapist.
I was just asking what it did. You know, you can live long in the wheelchair. You know, but what is
true? It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that I've known a couple of people that's passed from it.
Yeah.
And how quickly they go because of it. Because I think it paralyzes not just the spinal cord, but it stops the communication from going back. If what it is that I've read. But I'm just glad that FDA approves something for them to at least try it out. What got me was those people who said, "I wish it was earlier, where my dad or my family could have made it through that." I just wanted to put that out there. I know we have to show.
Did they say how long they've been? I mean, do they have trials on this so they know for sure that this is proven, or this is not an emergency use type thing?
No, it's not emergency use.
They had to have trials, right?
It's based on it's based on a phase 2 trial that they did, and they felt like basically in this phase they could go ahead and put it out or approve it for now. But you know, everything is government. Everything is Let's keep the show going.
That's true.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah,
I see you smiling, Chuck. We'll get on another show on this when it comes to meds.
Yeah, just because something's FDA approved doesn't mean it's good. So.
Right.
I agree.
No, not at all.
So, guys, this is the month of October, and I know that we've been feeling the temperature change. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, whoa, one day I had on a short sleeve shirt. The next day I was in a sweatshirt.
The next day,
And I haven't let go of it yet. It's like, it's okay. This fall is here.
I saw a meme that said summer clocked out. Like it was time. It was like,
really?
I mean, from one day to the
I'm out of here. Yeah.
So quickly too, abruptly.
I know. It's like, hey, without warning.
Yeah, the trees are out there tapping each other's, branches, saying, "Hey, aren't we supposed to change right about now?"
Yeah, but even with the changing season, I mean, this is the time, during the summer, there's a lot of activity. Families are vacationing. People are going here, going there. Fall kind of symbolizes the time where we start to slow
Relax.
down,
Fall
bring
back.
it back in.
Fall
It's like,
back.
yeah,
Mhm.
all back. Yes, I like that. So our topic today kind of deals with this idea of just going, this culture of fast, just always on the go. And we kind of want to talk a little bit about that. Charles is going to lead us out, but I'm sure many of you can relate to in your lifestyles, just feeling like you're constantly moving and always asking yourself, when am I going to be able to slow down? So we wanted to have a discussion about that today. So Charles, lead the way.
Okay, thank you. I want to kind of set, some base here for this, because a lot of our moving fast is culturally based, for generations actually, and just with the United States, pre World War II, one and two, things were a lot slower here in the United States. Employment was up. I'm sorry, down. Unemployment was up. And then the war comes along, and almost everybody's employed now, because you got to make bombs, you got to make ships and airplanes and uniforms and helmets and guns, all that stuff. So everybody's working. So unemployment went down to 1.2%. Everybody's working. Now the war is over. And the United States government, I'm sure other westernized type governments have realized that, wow, that's, war is big money. We made a lot of money. Folk made a lot of money. Vets were coming home. They had money to spend. They had grants. They had things. And so we kind of had to keep that momentum of work, go, buy, get, build, so forth and so on. And that is right on up till today. And so that kind of mindset has creeped into almost every fiber of our culture. Look at our corporations, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 7 days a week almost, overtime, double overtime, 2 jobs, just trying to keep up. And so we've started this momentum of fast, and then it goes into our technology. We have fast gadgets, fast cars, even down to, we have ATMs, we have convenience stores. Everything is built,
microwaves,
right?
Uber
Everything is built around hurry up, get it done, keep it moving. And so, you grow up in a society like that, and it just becomes part of your wiring. Slowing down was the equivalent of, some people say, well, when you go slow, you're not productive.
Lazy.
When you go slow, you're against speed. And that's not so. Slowing down it's not anti-speed. It's not anti-production. It's just doing things slower and a more methodical pace.
Yeah.
And we don't learn that here. I mean, even in school, our U.S. schools, when we're coming up in school, I went to public school. Maybe you guys can speak to,
I did too.
Church school. Come up in public school, and everything was achievement, build, do faster, be better, be competitive. And so it's just built in. That's our clock. That's here. I did a little study on how things are in some Scandinavian countries. You just go to the opposite extreme. And speaking of school, the students there are not given homework. The teachers do not give them homework because they don't want them. They've been in school up to 6 hours of the day. Okay. They want them to go home and be with their families, be with their friends, do projects, do hobbies, that sort of thing. That has never been my experience when I was in public school. You were in school all day. You knew you were failing. And then your teacher gives you a bunch of homework and you say, I'm going to go home and I'm going to make up and whatever, And it was stressful, but we didn't see it as stressful. But, you didn't get a chance to play much. You didn't get you dare not come into school the next day without your homework done. Even people that didn't have dogs said, dog ate my homework. So, yeah, we've just grown up in this country, and I would dare say other westernized countries, because a lot of countries followed after us. In fact, there is a movement called the slow living is a movement. And in my research, it was interesting how it started. It started in Italy when McDonald's put their first restaurant in Italy. And so many people objected to that because it meant fast food.
Yeah.
As you know, in Italy,
they pride themselves on taking their time.
Yes, making the sauces.
Absolutely. So they started a movement of slow living because they knew what McDonald's and other restaurants like that represented. Everything is quick, easy, drive up, grab the food, go. In fact, during your lunch break, you drive to McDonald's, you get the food, and you eat it before you're even back at work because you're eating it in your car. That's when Carvax got real, popular, because you're sucking up all those crumbs in your car. So yeah, I mean, societies kind of bring on this culture of fast, and more recently, because of the increase of technology, when computers came on, they had to be faster. Even if we didn't need faster, we had to have faster. Now the big thing with like Apple computers is the M1, the M2 chip, because it does things faster. So we are constantly fed this, fast, keep it moving, get it done. I saw one presentation by a motivational speaker. He says that he made a statement, stuck with me. He says, I don't have a time to finish, something like that. He says, I've finished when I'm done. In other words, I'm not on the clock. I just keep moving until I get what I want. All right, that's surely is not healthy, but slow means better health, more receptive and patient, more reflective, more able to choose quality over quantity. And you'll be able to make real connections when you're going slow, when you have a mindset of, let me take it easy. I even had to remind myself this morning when I came in. Yes, I do work on Sundays, which is what I'm working on. Anyway, I came in and I started just doing my normal thing. You come in, you do this, you have a routine in the morning. And I had to consciously say to myself, slow down. Just go a little slower. It'll get done. And I really, whenever I tell myself to do that, I actually feel my anxiety going down. Because now you can control that. People say, oh, I have a lot of anxiety and leads to depression. I got so much going on and blah, blah, blah. You can control that by simply practicing slow living. We'll get to that when we get to the personal. Yeah. Bill.
Well, I'm thinking one of my favorite quotations. Mahatma Gandhi made the statement that there's more to life than simply increasing its speed. Because we really do believe that we are living more when we are producing and acquiring and achieving more. I've always thought it was, and this is Chuck, this is an Adventist discussion more than any other. I always thought that it was curious that God gave to man on his first day. Man was not tired. He had not worked. And God gives to man something to inculcate into his life, something that says, slow down even before man starts up.
Wow.
Because it's so important to learn. The first task of life for a child is to come to rest so that you can suckle. If a child doesn't come to rest, it will die. And Jesus makes the statement, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you
rest.
The idea of slowing down is something that is ingrained. And if any people are supposed to practice learning how to rest, learning how to slow things down, it should be us. But on Friday night, we gear up, we get off work, we run into Walmart or Giants or whatever supermarket. We know the sun, we're racing the sun, we're turning our collar up, putting on sunglasses, running into the store so that the other magnificent sevens will not see us, grabbing a pan of lasagna,
right. Absolutely.
going home, yelling at the kid, I told you to clean this house up, I'll kill you.
Exactly.
Getting out 8 different color pens to go through our Sabbath school lesson to make it look like we studied every day.
Right.
Rushing in the church.
Been through that, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and then we jump in the door and happy Sabbath, and ain't nobody happy.
We covered it all, man.
Right, but we put on that cover, and Tally, you took us right into the second part of this discussion, and that is lifestyle of Christians, and more specifically Adventist Christians. Because our Christian brothers and sisters, who we say first day worshipers, Sunday church, whatever we want to call it, they have a different approach to Christian lifestyle than Seventh-day Adventists. And I think that we cause more stress than we relieve because of the rules and regulations and the trends that we've developed. I once had I was at a service, and a pastor said in his sermon that he says, we're not keeping the Sabbath properly. He says, you all cannot wait till this church service is over before you can go home and change into your jeans and your sweatshirts and whatever. He says, that's blasphemous. You should stay dressed your entire Sabbath day. In other words, be uncomfortable all day instead of relaxing and having more comfortable clothes on. So we've got variations of that going on. You've got Adventist churches in California that say, or maybe in Florida, that on Sabbath afternoon they go to the beach. Oh, no, you can't do that.
Or ride the bike.
Or ride the bike.
Bicycles.
That's not Sabbath keeping. Yeah. Well, so I want to speak to your experiences as an Adventist coming up. To the restrictions and the lifestyle of Adventists versus, say, what your family, Adventists or not, would normally do.
Well, unlike most of these other guys, I didn't come up as an Adventist. I was a Gentile bastard grafted in, as the Apostle Paul says.
I was a member of that club.
Yeah, and so, but we learned that early that I remember the Bible study. What is the right day of worship? And the idea is Sabbath, but that's not true. There is no right day of worship. In fact, when Sabbath was given to the people to whom it was originally given, they didn't go to worship on Sabbath. The concept of going somewhere to do something special on Sabbath comes about after the exile, when they go to Babylon and the synagogue system is created. Nobody says that you're supposed to be jumping up in the morning, everybody going to the same place at the same time, getting overdressed, overcooking, overactive. Nobody said that is what Sabbath is supposed to be, but yet somehow or another, we have made Sabbath, quote, the day of worship. That's a theological issue that we need to give a second look at.
And that question came up when the pandemic hit in 2020, and folks were forced to be at home and unable to worship. And so, hopefully there's a lot more clarity now, but I feel like there's still a lot of fuzziness in our faith community about what the Sabbath is and what it really means.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, based on the pandemic, has discovered other ways to worship, number one. They either appreciated being home with their families all day on Sabbath or not.
Yeah.
Because now we're trying to be real.
We got those calls like the people call, Pastor, I'm enjoying being at home resting on Sabbath, but my wife and children are here all the time. So.
But no, I agree with that. I think for our family, since you mentioned the pandemic, GP, we realized that not having to go to Sabbath school and church at a particular time, and we live almost an hour away from the church that we attend, it allowed us to find peace in the Sabbath, real rest. Like we didn't have to rush awake.
Yeah.
We kind of took our time, and we talked about we made breakfast together as we listened to gospel music and Bible stories. So it became the slow pace that we felt eased into instead of rushed into. And I think that was one of the things that our family took away from it. Now that we're starting to kind of go back to church, even now we're taking our time. You know, I mean, we may not get there right at 12 o'clock when the service starts. We may get there 12:15, but it's okay
That's
because
not good.
we want the Sabbath.
That's not okay.
Sorry. We want the Sabbath to be a joy for our children, not something that they feel like they have to rush into every week and somebody's dragging them into the car. You know, we want it to be something that they enjoy and really don't lose the true meaning of.
Yeah. And
you know, speaking of time, I was just going to say, and speaking of time, you know, you can still get to things on time.
Yes, you can.
You just have to start early. I mean, one of the things that bugs me is that I'm on the highway, you know, just cruising. And here's a person that comes up on my bumper. I'm obviously not going fast enough. And I say to myself, and in the rearview mirror, I can't help it if you're late for work. Leave earlier. So now I have to change, you know, my calmness, you know, my cruising, because you're late and you're 3 inches from my bumper, right?
I don't appreciate you saying that to me either, Charles.
You know, it's funny that Charles, it's funny how we all moved to Sabbath right away. Right? And anytime we as Christians think about resting, the first thing that comes to our mind is Sabbath. And I want to challenge us to not to put away the Sabbath, but to think what it's like to be restful every day.
Yeah.
You know, because we grew up this way. Okay. Adventism became a lifestyle for us, whereas we are working so hard for this one day. And I think that, you know, I took a trip to the Mediterranean, which is supposed to be one of the most calmest lifestyle people. When they eat slow. The portions of their food come out slower, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, when I go to the Olive Garden, my food comes like this. It's, you know,
right.
Everything takes time. People don't rush. They hardly have traffic lights. They have crosswalks, and they'll stop if you actually get into the crosswalk, you know. And I
try that in New York.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, but my thing is that, Charles, I hope everybody understands this. It's taking me time to even learn how to take the time to slow down.
You got to practice it every day. And, you know, using two opposite extremes, I'm thinking about a business trip I took. You know, I've been in New York, been in Manhattan. If you've never gone to Manhattan or driven in Manhattan, do yourself a favor. You know, take the Port Authority train and walk. And I mean, don't even get a cab. I was horrified.
Right.
In one of the cabs. I was on my way to, what church is that in Manhattan? Ephesus, maybe. And I took the train to New York and I grabbed a cab. And that was back in the day, and I don't think they have them anymore, where they didn't have traffic lights that were red, green, and yellow. They were either green
or red. Yeah,
really.
I mean, yeah,
and I remember, yes, there were two lights.
There was no caution light.
Right. Yeah. So I got in this cab and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to make it to this church." Why did I say that? I'm late. I got to make it to this church, and it's up on 125th or whatever. And he said, "Okay, no problem, bro. I'll get you there." I was horrified. That cab, you probably still see my fingernails print in the seats. He was flying and very second nature. It wasn't like he was. That's exactly the way they drive in there. And I was so glad to have gotten to that church. I had a whole new set of prayers and thank yous. But yeah, it's all around us. But yet now I go to Colorado. And it was almost going like to a Mediterranean, town. I was like 8,000 feet above sea level. I had to go to a conference up there. It was, and I went there and I had a rental car and I'm driving up, the mountains. I get up there and it seemed like the higher I got, the slower things got. And when I got to the town that the conference was in, everything seemed slow. People walked slow, talked slow. Rush hour was slow hour. I went into a convenience store and I had to ask the clerk, I said, this is rush hour. No one seems to be, I hear no horns blowing. She said, oh no, it's just like that around here.
Or they'll call it a traffic.
But
they will call it a traffic with like 10 cars in the street going slow.
Exactly.
This is our jam.
Right.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Marlene.
Chuck. Well,
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to I was waiting to make this point. We were talking about, slowing down. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to our cultural and society, because for those who work, all work, especially corporate jobs, it's that fast pace, because the more you work, the more production, the more money. Is all about making that money, right? And so when you're working all week, you're coming home, you have to fix dinner, you have to take care of the children, help them do their homework, make sure everything is getting done, right? Then there is little sleep, right? Little sleep increases anxiety, increases mental illness, increases depression. You go back, you start that same cycle over and over and over again. And God forbid if you have the type of job where you don't have the weekends off, right? You work 6-7 days a week, right? And so we see that pile of rush. And then someone says, slow down, and you think, how do I slow down when my job requires me to work 10 hours a day, And so it is very challenging, even though we know some societies may be a little bit slower, but depending on your profession, depending on where you live, it can be really fast paced and difficult to get out of it. And we were talking about Adventist living, which really teaches sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day. Do you know our bodies are made to repair itself from injury.
Right.
That's how good, God created us, right? That when you're in the bed by 10 and you got to get into one of those sleep cycles, right? Before your body starts to really repair itself. But you're not going to bed till 12, 1 or 2. You got to get up at 6 and 7. There's no body repair. The mind also has repair hours, and so there's no repair. And we wonder why our homes are in a wreck, why we're so angry, why we're so upset, because we're not sleeping.
You look upset, Marlena.
We're not sleeping. We're not resting. It's really
you make
rough.
an excellent.
Yeah. And so, even though us talking, tonight, people's like, I hear you, but how do I change?
But how do I do that?
Yeah, when I've got, even just the work alone, how many people are depressed and anxious because of the jobs they have, that requires so much that, doesn't allow them.
And our culture and our society is caused that. And I will say that the church has kind of picked up and paralleled on that, because, the slow movement, they actually have a list of things, that they say what slow is not, right? When people think that if you're always slow, then you're stupid.
Well, we do call them slow children. I mean,
right.
Mercy.
Being slow means that you control the rhythms of your life. Not someone else. And we are fighting for the right to go at our own tempos. And that's stressful in of itself. But here are two things I learned about this whole slow mentality, that the brain is made up of, two sides. One is fast thinking, the other is slow thinking. Under fast thinking, they say you're more rational, you're more analytical, and you're good under pressure. That's fast thinking. Slow thinking, you are more intuitive, you're more creative, and you're more insightful. Now, which of those two would you prefer to live on a daily basis? And that's not to say slow thinking is not rational, but fast thinkers, and because we have jobs that causes us, we have to make decisions quickly. You have to decide. I mean, Marlena, you know, being also in the medical field, sometimes you have to make decisions. You have to make, you know, rational. You have to be able to analyze.
Well, you know. I mean, listening to you, Charles, I guess if we have both of them, it's obvious that we probably need them both because, for example, when if I go into the hospital in the emergency room because I'm bleeding, I don't want the doctor to come in and say,
slow
"Well,
down.
we think that we are going
Take it easy. You have plenty of blood.
how are you feeling?"
Right. But yeah, and that's why they say that it both exist and we should be able to use them at the right time.
Right.
I'm sure that as pastors, you know, you have to adjust your speeds, all right, your thinking based on the situation. If you're leading out in a program or you're preaching, or if you're counseling an individual in office or whatever, you're shifting gears, correct?
On a dime.
Yeah. So you have to go sometimes from the fast thinking model to the slow thinking model.
Right.
Because you have the capacity to do both. But unfortunately, so many of us burn ourselves out because we stay in fast thinking mode.
Yeah.
We're always pedal to the metal for everything, you know, even for things that should be situations where we should be more insightful and more creative. We're still stuck in that fast gear.
Right.
And the quality of our work isn't as good, maybe, because we're still in fast mode. Got to get it done. Nothing to see here. Moving on. Okay. Well, we've seen that. We've seen that in manufacturing, you know, like automobile manufacturers. You know, I hate to hate on your Tesla, Pat, but Tesla in the automotive industry has been rated as one of the worst assembled cars on earth.
What?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
And it costs so much.
Assembled.
Oh my goodness.
Right. If you go on Reddit and you look for Tesla owners, you'll find all kinds of problems that they have. In fact, my son and I were on a trip and we drove up next to this car carrier, you know, and they had all Teslas on them. And he's holding his ears. And every single Tesla had some little minor flaw about it.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. Like the trunk lid didn't line up. These are brand new Teslas right out of the factory. So what does that come from? You know, you even hear car aficionados say, you're going to buy a Mercedes or a BMW, make sure it's made in Germany. Why? Because when it gets to the United States, if the parts are brought to the United States, they're not assembled as well because the workers are, just make the list, stressed out, tired, working too long, don't care. All of that is a part of lifestyle.
Well, I know that Pat, you know, said that when we were talking about Sabbath, he said he didn't want to talk about Sabbath anymore. And, you know, that concerns me a little. But I mean, I go back to it. I mean, because it's what Sabbath is not simply what you do on the seventh day. It's what it teaches you about life.
Right.
We are in a constant tension between what we be and what we do. And we get to a point where we start defining our being by our doing. And what Sabbath teaches is not to. Sabbath teaches you to define yourself by what you be.
I agree.
People you love, and so
yes,
if you get to that point, then you're no longer so enamored with your doing, and you're no longer intoxicated by your achieving, and you're no longer identified by your accomplishing.
That's a sermon.
You can take a moment and just be. You know.
Yeah.
There's
a quote I love. It says, "You are not a human doing; you are a human being."
You're a human being.
I like that.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, Adam and Eve are created. They have done nothing, accomplished nothing, achieved nothing. And then God says, and what's the first order of business? And that is to receive from me what I have done for you and to recognize that that is your security and that is your being. I mean, if people could learn that, how much better off would we be?
And that goes to answer Marlena's question about how do people get out of the rat race. It really boils down to you deciding that you don't want to live like this anymore and making changes in your life.
Stop being a rat. Yeah.
Yeah. We act like because we have a particular job, we have to stay at that job. No, you have options. You just have to prioritize. What kind of life do I want to live? What profession would allow me to do that? And start making those steps. I think sometimes we feel like this is how it's supposed to be, and we just need to get better at managing it. And that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes we just need to abort ship and start over, or do something different.
What did you just say?
I mean, and I see what you're saying. She did have a P on the end of that word.
Okay. I was going to say,
P is P's and Paul.
He's starting to feel real. Tyler said, I'm fed up with all this. Nominated committee meeting.
Tasha said, I'm really slowing down.
Tosh, and I'm listening to what you say, and I think about all of our educators. You know how much work educators put into teaching our children. They get so little sleep, use all of their monies. I mean, this thing
very stressful.
Yes, it is extremely. And so if we say get out of it, you're talking about changing careers, changing education, or working at Walmart, right? So it takes a lot. And
well, even Walmart gives you a break.
Yeah.
Or just change where you're teaching. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think there's a where, Tasha. I think it's everywhere, even in the private sector, in the charter schools, all of that education, the requirements that are on the teachers to bring to the students after you've taught all day. Then you've got to continue making lesson plans, and it is extremely challenging. And don't be a small little house on the prairie kind of school where you're teaching more grades than one. Then that's really stressful. So my point with that is that people are. It's almost like you have to really, if you're single, it's almost impossible. If you're married, then maybe, if there's a little buffer there with the finances, you can kind of choose another career, but something would give.
What she said? Right. I'm just kidding.
Buffer.
No. I
said if you're married.
I want to get on personal. Go ahead.
Okay. And so, dog bless you, took my thought.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I was just trying to say that it's challenging. And so if you try to pull back, because I'm telling teachers all the time, don't stay up that late. Just this is what I do. Stuff doesn't get done. I was like, well, just don't do it, because you're gonna die not getting enough sleep. Maybe, because the curricula, that they have to teach and they have to make sure it's on point, and then if they don't, then the children suffer. So then if the grades go down, well, what kind of teacher? The teacher's not teaching, and the parents don't want to do
chaos.
It. Yeah.
You see the chaos we've created.
Right. And the parents like, I'm not going to go over their homework. I don't have time to do that. It's the teacher. The teacher's got to do it. And so it's a mess.
And that's why it needs to be a community thing. When people say, well, how can I do that? I work for XYZ company, and it's just like pedal to the metal. As soon as I punch in and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can start. If it's a job you must have, you can start by talking to your supervisors and talking to your bosses. There are some companies that have some very nice, what they call break rooms in some large corporations. They have a room that is outfitted. It's very quiet. It's dimly lit. They have music playing, and they insist on employees going to that break room and taking that 20 minutes, that half hour. They actually found that productivity went up when people de-stressed during the day.
Yeah.
We've got to find ways to provide de-stressing, in our areas. And I dare say even in our schools. I mean, the Finland schools have figured it out.
Yeah.
In fact, when those kids go home, they don't get homework. The teachers aren't worrying about staying up marking papers all night, that kind of thing. So it can be done.
So when the school day ends for a student in Finland, they're actually finished.
Yes, Kelly, I love you. I love you.
Can
I tell you what? Can I tell you the beginning? I suffered with depression and anxiety clinically, and now I'm managing it. There's two difference, right? Now I'm managing it, because I've also learned to depend on anxiety and depression in order to live. One day we'll get into it, right? Because I'm more comfortable with knowing what I know, which is anxiety and depression. So if I feel a certain way, it's because I'm used to it. Let me do that. one of the biggest changes, Chuck, and everyone who's listening in my life, which I'm still trying to master, is making a list. Right. And I went nominal for 10. And once those 10 things are done, that's it for the day. Don't feel guilty.
That's
and I have one highlight. So it's the 10 of the list and there's one highlight. Don't feel guilty if you don't get to the 10. Who are you trying to impress to get to the 10? You know, this is what by the way, this is still a learning process.
I'm there with you.
A learning process. And what I noticed is that when I made the list, I start to pay attention more to me than because I know who I'm making the list for.
That's wisdom.
Right. So it helps me. It helps me actually. Tally, we have a good friend together. Keith is I got a book from him that was talking about that. Even though it's anxiety and depression, I have this book called "Don't Feed the Monkey Mind." And what ends up happening is that we keep feeding to the point where we're on a hamster wheel and we just running and running, and we jump off dizzy. So I'm not where I need to be. And I'm telling my gang this, I'm telling you, family, I'm not where I need to be, but I do notice, and I want to share with you that when I went on vacation and disconnected, you know what I'm saying? No emails, nothing, and disconnected, I had less headaches. Not less headaches. I'm sorry. I had
no headaches.
Not less. I had
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Nothing. It was almost like, and you know, I could say this. When I came back to work, I got a headache just by walking in the door. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because of expectation. Most of our running up and down is because of expectation.
Right.
You need to slow that piece down. And I'm still trying to work on that. Can I just add one more thing?
And you know what another thing is psychologically? You know, another thing?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it, but I read it in several of my books on psychology. They said that we have a hard time accepting uncertainty.
That's it. That's it. That's where anxiety comes from anyway.
Yeah.
But see, but this takes us back to, and I know it sounds like I'm just beating this thing to death, but it is a part of our definition. Our definition begins with seventh day.
Yeah.
I mean, and life for human beings, if you would believe scripture, and I know some of you are challenged by that, but
Marlena, you know he's talking about you, right? I'm just telling you.
How is he talking about me? I believe in the scriptures. I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm not talking about the Quran now, Marlena. but I mean, life begins for our race, our human race, with the concept of rest. You know, before anything else happens, they are given this idea of rest. Yet, as Seventh-day Adventist Christians who are entrusted with this, we have perverted it to the point where the day of rest. Listen to this passage.
I said perverted it, man.
Hebrews chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, since the promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear lest any of you seem to come short of it. Because the word which they heard did not profit them, speaking of the original Sabbath keepers, because it wasn't mixed with faith in those who heard it. You were talking about anxiety because of uncertainty. That's what keeps us going. If I don't keep working, something bad's going to happen. And what God says is learn how to let go, trusting in the one who made everything secure from you in the beginning.
Come on.
That is what we're supposed to be teaching the world this. How to come to rest, knowing that God has it. And we do the very opposite.
And you know, that's true lifestyle evangelism.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
That's true lifestyle evangelism. There is a movement called lifestyle evangelism.
And Tally, we have to believe it ourselves. So we become,
and we have to practice it
and model it.
Right. Yeah.
But this program is going to end. This podcast is going to end. Everybody's going to listen to it and say that was really fun. And we're going to go right back.
Well, when it becomes important to you,
that's
one thing I learned in my journey to slowing down, before the pandemic, you know, lunchtime around here, me and the guys would go out, we'll grab a sandwich, go to Wawa, just come back and eat, blah, blah, blah. Then when the pandemic came along, a lot of places that we normally populated were either closing down or had all kinds of restrictions. So guess what? We had to make our own food here in the media center in our pantry. That's a type of slowing down.
It is.
So now I get to cook my food I get to, learn how to cook. Where before I didn't care. I could just go through a drive-through and boom, 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 got the food on my way. Now I learned a type of slowing down by meal planning, cooking my own meal, and taking my time to consume it.
Charles, what I'm upset about is that I got this friend who just retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's working hard and
call him out.
Yes.
Say it.
Yes.
He's working harder now in retirement.
Yeah.
No, but that's the true thing, though. A lot of people in retirement, I've heard people say they don't want to retire because they feel like they won't have any meaning. There's nothing that they're, doing.
Right.
And so they get into retirement and they try to fill in these voids that, from having that, regular employment, and they end up doing more than they need to, where it's like it's almost not okay. They don't feel comfortable resting. Is that you, Tally? Do you feel uncomfortable when your schedule is not full?
My ambition in life is to wake up at 9 o'clock and to do nothing, and then at 11 o'clock slow down. I mean, that is my ambition. I mean,
Tally, you are busier than most of us still on this.
And I realized, when I retired from my pulpit. I did not retire from working in radio and media and other things, and so. And now I'm thinking about getting out of that, and living a useful life is a blessing, but and I'm really bad at monitoring myself. I mean, I'm really bad at it, and being, when not being married made it worse. I mean, I've suffered.
Hold on.
I've suffered.
Let me call. Hold on one second. Joanne, yeah. Yeah, get on the show right now. That's him. I'll talk to you after. All right, bye. I thought I was on mute. My fault. That's not.
But family is a metronome. It, the rhythm of life comes through family, and even if you're not happily married, the fact that there's someone else there with whom you have to conduct rhythm, it helps to keep you a little bit better on course. And so, I've made serious mistakes in this area, and I wish I could change them, and I'm trying to change them now. But retirement for me life sped up.
Yeah.
I'm really shocked by that.
We noticed.
We all know.
We miss you, man.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Along with vitamin D deficiencies and B's and C's. And
the doctor told me that my whole alphabet was gone. I ain't got no A's, no B's, no C's. Everything was gone.
Well, let me share with you some tips as we try to. I really want to deep dive into the personal. If you want to, each one want to say something about what you're trying to do or enlightened to do to slow down. Some of the tips from the slow life movement are, which I thought was interesting, and I've actually had been doing some of these things myself. But they say, take 10 minutes to do nothing. Now that could be 20 minutes, that could be 30 minutes, but they're saying be intentional to sit and do absolutely nothing. Turn off the cell phone, no reading, no journaling, no talking.
I'd fall asleep.
Right.
Now, let me make a side comment on prayer. A lot of times we rush our prayers. We're rushing out the door. We rush. And there are times we ask ourselves, I've been praying for this and the Lord ain't answering. And, my goodness, I've been praying for this for 3 months. And I
think you just took some time off.
Had you
he's practicing now, his 10 minutes.
Right. He's taking his 10 minutes to do nothing. Had it occurred to you, and I read this in a book on prayer, that sometimes we pray in Jesus' name, amen, and out the door we go with our car keys.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't hear God because we don't stop long enough to hear God.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So after your prayer, rather than grab the car keys and run out the door and try to beat the traffic, stay on your knees for another 5 minutes and just listen to the voice of God. Because a lot of times we don't hear him because we are fast tracking our lives every day.
When you consider that you don't have to talk to God because he already knows, prayer is really more about waiting before God than it is about talking to God.
Yes.
Another tip, they say, do something creative. So if you don't have a hobby, make a hobby. Find out something to do, even if it's a bowl. Come on, just do something creative. Cook, learn how to cook, play an instrument. Excuse me. Go for a walk in nature. I know some of that sounds corny to people, especially when you don't have a nature around you. You just have a concrete, park.
Yeah, Chuck Williams was found with a grizzly bear.
Now, here's one that is tough for me because I'm an information hog. They say start your day information free.
Free, yeah.
I like that.
One of the first things I do is click on NPR, BBC, to find out what happened overnight.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're saying start your day information free, and then spend time alone. Be quiet, Tally. Spend time alone for reading and meditating. So
mute him, Tasha. Mute him. I see it coming. Mute him.
Some of the, some of these things I've read in some of these tips I've been starting to do, and I have actually seen the results. I couldn't believe it. For instance, if during the day I'm working on a project, things are going at fast pace, and I decide that the anxiety is up, you're feeling uncomfortable because you're going at 100 miles an hour. If I intentionally sit down in my office, close the door, and I sit there for about 15, 20 minutes, I was amazed at how rejuvenated I felt. And I understand from some therapists, they say, when you sit down, I'm going to take a break. Your break needs to be more than 10 minutes because they say it takes your body about 10 minutes to relax.
Yeah, before it realizes that it stopped. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you really do feel rejuvenated, and you have to get in the habit of doing it, and you have to know the signals. Your body signals you all the time.
Oh yeah.
This is too much anxiety.
That's why God made depends.
Right.
Did you say depends?
He said depends.
When you miss those signals.
Yeah.
It all depends.
We're asking for testimonials, but not yours, Tally.
Right. So let's just ask this question, and we can start wrapping up. Personally, what have you done or plan to do?
Well, I'd like
professionally. Professionally, what are you planning to do? Okay, to intentionally slow down. Now, our church, sometimes folk don't think you have the Lord in your life unless you're constantly doing something.
Yeah.
When is the last time somebody heard somebody brag about how much sleep they got? but compare that to the last time you heard somebody bragging about how long they've gone without sleeping and how much time they put in on a project.
Wow, you're right.
Yeah. Right. Shows dedication.
I had this guy, he said to me, I was calling him and trying to get in contact with him and get something done. You know what he said to me, which I respect now. He said, your emergency is not my emergency.
That's right.
Emergency on your part.
Right. I've seen variations of that. Your lack of planning is not my, How many times have we gotten emails or phone calls? I know it's a short notice, but actually you should fill in the rest of this sentence. But I'm not doing it. Okay. Yeah. And we get those kind of calls all the time from bosses, from family, whatever. And of course you have to make it, it's on a per situation basis, of course, if it's a life, death emergency, whatever. But there are times when people could have told you 4 or 5 days ahead what they needed on a particular day, and they wait to the day of and apologize. I hate it when they start a sentence. I know it's a short notice, and I know what's going to come next. Can you?
Chuck, can I answer your question as far as both and trying what I would like to try to do? Number one, my calling is 24 hours, but my job has to be about 8.
Good point, Pat. Good point.
And they don't coincide with each other. My mistake is that my calling is, what I mean? I have to mix both. So what I would love to do is to leave work as what it is and my calling as what it is. Of course, they intertwine, but work has to stop somewhere.
Yeah.
And I have to be more rewarding to my list. So right now I have a bunch of marbles that I keep on my desk.
Oh, you have those?
Yeah, sometimes.
Well,
somebody told me that you had. Somebody told me you had lost
your marbles.
Yeah, I have enough to replace, and I have one. I have one for work, one for school. One,
oh, you gotta love the UpSet.
One for home, and one for myself. And when I get to those,
what podcast would show you 4 jars of marbles?
That is true.
This is only at the UpSet. No, you gotta
what I wanted to share there is that I stuck to my guns on filling them when I did something or when I got through that task, and I need to just reward myself when I do. You know what I mean? So those are the 2 things. One is make that list and stick to it, reward yourself, and the other one is the calling in the job.
And when on those to-do lists, because I've learned this over the years, you make this unrealistic to-do list.
Yeah.
And I use a format for my daily, write out what I'm going to do today. Some things that don't get done that can move to tomorrow, I'll say, that goes on tomorrow's list.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It means it still exists and it still needs to get done, but not today.
Right.
You know how many times we've said that? Mom, can I? Not today. Now, Mom didn't say not forever, but not today. So that's a way of us saying to ourselves, we need to give ourselves some space and some breathing room,
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've done too, even with my to-do list for work, since we're talking professionally. I have a planner and it has probably about 8 slots of lines you can fill in. I was reading somewhere where they said only put 3 things on your to-do list today. Because one, you can sometimes set yourself up for failure or having unrealistic expectations of what you can accomplish in a day. But it allows you to be more intentional about those 3 things, and it gives you room for those unexpected things that are always going to come up. I mean, we all know every day something that's not on your list comes up that you have to do. These aren't optional things. And so that has really helped me. I start trying to fill my list for the day and narrow it down to the most 3 important things and if I get those 3 things done, I can go on to the next thing, but it helps me stay focused and it helps me not to be overwhelmed, start my day off being overwhelmed by everything that I have to get done. And then another thing professionally is starting to set those boundaries of just because the email comes in at 5:59 and somebody asks you a question, doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing to respond. It can wait till tomorrow. Like you said, some things can wait. We put those unrealistic expectations on ourselves because we want to be the most responsive. We want to get back to people quickly. We don't want this reputation of this and that. And so we put all these things on ourselves. And the person's like, oh, I didn't need to know this until next week. And
like, that causes anxiety.
You didn't even care. So it's like you just learn how to just relax your expectations, be more realistic, and shorten those lists a little bit.
Right. I use a feature in Gmail now. It's called snooze. If an email comes in, I snooze it to another day, which means it goes out of my inbox and doesn't come back until I say, okay, I'm ready to deal with that. So that's a little pro tip there. Comes in, hey, those emails that always start with, hope you're well.
I start mine off like that sometimes.
Charles, I know where you snooze me now. I know where you snooze me too.
Hope all is well. And first thing I say to myself, and I say I have to apologize to the Lord. I say, you ain't hoping all is well. You just trying to soften me up with the next sentence, right?
Wow, Chuck. Wow.
Right. Like, hope this email reaches you and your family at the top of the. Please, just tell me what you want, okay? Anyway,
oh my goodness!
What's really funny is that
now you know what? I'm not going to get any emails from any of you now that says "hope all is well." It's like
30 years of Chuck building a reputation of being zen-like and accommodating has ended in one podcast.
Yep.
Let me know what you really think. Right?
You know what I like? One of our colleagues, Elder Colin Brathwaite. I love the way he greets you. He says, "How you living?"
Yep.
And you're used to responding to hey, how you doing? You say, oh, okay. But then he says, how you living? And you go, think about that for a minute.
It's stupendous. I'm giving ends to my friends and doing big business.
Yeah, and whenever Elder Brathwaite, I love him. He's so funny. He's so genuine. He will leave you a message on your voicemail. And he'll say, hey, this is Colin, blah, 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 blah. Call me when you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh.
Colin,
like that. Like having
really,
And
Colin
he
has
means
learned
it.
how to live. Yeah,
He means
Colin
it.
has learned how to
He
live.
means it.
Yeah,
Go
I think that
go golfing with him. You know, people say that your sports lifestyle is how you are.
right.
You know, and
That's
he,
true. Yeah,
that's what he said. You know, and he said on the golf course, he said, "That's the problem with you guys, always rushing. You get there, you get there."
And there's
Pastor
no glory
Brathwaite
in
talks
that.
slow too. He slows everything.
Yeah. There's no glory in just trying to get it all done in one day.
True.
Ever since I prepared for this show, now I have little signs around that say slow.
Wow.
I come in and I see the sign that says slow, and it's okay. I can still do this, but I need to slow it down.
Right.
Slow it down.
Well,
And one little side note where it benefited me financially, the gas prices are up.
They're going
So I
down,
said, you
buddy.
know what?
Yeah, they still
Yeah,
high.
but they're still high based on 2 years ago.
We got used to
but
4, now
it's better than
3.69.
$4 something.
Right.
I got gas the other day, $3.49.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enjoy it while you can.
They're still
But what I
going
did
down.
was I have my old little 22-year-old Honda. By the way, I'm getting ready to celebrate 300,000 miles on that car.
Whoa.
Still rolls, still air conditioning, still just runs. Okay. And I said, I'm going to try something. I'm just going to start driving a little slower, not to the point where you're in people's way and they're honking horn, but I'm just, get off of the pedal a little bit. Right. I average usually on that Honda about 325 miles to the tank. Okay. I stretch just from intentionally slowing down, not so much slow, but not putting your pedal. You know what I'm saying? How we do those jackrabbit starts and we're going. I intentionally slowed that car down, and I now average 375 miles to the tank.
That's a word.
Wow.
Now, that's just easing off of the accelerator a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit.
what they say. Yeah.
So
You burn less
slow.
gas.
I want to bear
Can pay
witness.
off.
As a person who has known Chuck the longest, he was not always that way.
Oh no.
I remember taking a trip with Chuck when he had that Volkswagen, and I'm telling you, the underwear from that day is in the Smithsonian right now.
So you weren't wearing Depends.
No, man. No. I mean, that boy was driving, listening to Andre Crouch. I can still remember the day. Listening to Andre Crouch drumming on the steering wheel, going through a tunnel. And I remember thinking, my God, if you can get me out of this vehicle, there will not be another prayer emanating from it. But it's good to know that he slowed down. But that's for me in my house. I mean, one of the things that I have come to enjoy and appreciate more than anything is after retiring is the joy of Sabbath. When Sabbath comes, letting it fall off my shoulders like an old garment, not having to worry about gearing up for the hundreds of people that you have to meet when you walk in a building, and every eye in the building turns in the direction of the man who is supposedly the focus of all that's going on. Not having to cogitate and reflect upon how my thoughts and transitions of the sermon will come together. As a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, we don't get what our counterparts get in the Baptist and the Methodist Church, and that is to come to an ease on Friday, to Saturday allows these folks to just kind of ease off of things, and then they gear up on Sunday. We go directly out of the week, directly into Sabbath, and then to board meeting on Sunday or something. And I'm so grateful now when the shadows lengthen on Friday so that I can just let it go.
Is that why our brethren from our Baptist and Methodist churches get the reputation of having church all day? Because they are so rested and so ready.
It is different. I can tell you one thing, and I've studied it when I was the faith-based initiative director for the city, going into a lot of these churches, that the folks in the churches were more relaxed because they had Saturday to decompress. Our folks come
They're
straight
running
in from
on
Friday.
Saturdays. They're doing everything.
No, not necessarily. No, they may go shopping, but it's a decompression. It's not a continuation of gearing up
of work. Maybe the work.
But you come to our church, man. Our folks are still mad.
They still tired and sleeping in the services.
Have to rush home, and and then Sabbath school starts at 9:30. That ain't good enough. Early morning prayer meeting starts at 7:30.
Right.
That ain't enough. Fasting begins at 6. But just bring a cot and stay here Friday night. I mean, we just, it's like you're not holy unless you're spending time in this building.
And I believe God never intended us to be like that.
The Israelites did not leave their tents on Sabbath. But we have decided, and the reason we did it is because we're competing with Sunday. We decided to replicate everything that was done on Sunday on Saturday, not realizing that we didn't have any decompression time between Friday and that our children sometimes despise what we have done to them. So
yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I wanted to bring that up, but our show is running a little long. But
I just want to get mine out real quick, Chuck.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
You go to the children, because I think for me that this would create balance in every area, in my work, in my profession, in my rest, just to get more sleep. If I could get that 7 to 8 hours, I'm going to be balanced mentally, physically. I'm going to be in a good spirit. I'm going to be able to get my stuff done, my outlook, when you don't get enough sleep, even your outlook on things, it alters everything. And so that's just for me. I've been working on that already. It hasn't gotten to perfection for that 7, 8 hours.
Just work on
getting a little bit better at 6, but I'm really, even with school and church work, and do a little physical therapy on the side, and family and all that other stuff. I'm still trying to make
physical therapy on the side, Marlene?
Yeah, but I started on the side again. On the side.
All right, let me help you out, Marlene.
Well,
you're getting sleepy. Sleepy.
That's why when Chuck said sit 10 minutes, man, I'm like, if I sit 10 minutes, I'm not.
And
that's too much. It's too much.
One little pro tip on just real quick before GP. Pro tip: these things are amazing. I program my phone to go into do not disturb every evening at a particular time. I also have a favorites list, which include family members and very close friends that the do not disturb will allow a call to come in at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, because generally if someone's calling you at that time, something's up and they need to talk to you right away. So just a pro tip, you just set your phone to do not disturb and it won't ring. I even turned off my ringer and I turned off my notification sounds. I've just said, I get irritated when I hear the beep. I get irritated when I hear the ringer. So I turned it all off. If I happen to have the phone with me when you're calling, fine. If not, leave a message. If you don't leave a message, oh well, must not have been that important.
Oh well.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, just a little pro tip on your phones, do the do not disturb at certain times of the day, and that'll help. GP? Yeah. I see your administrative assistant has joined us.
Yes, here, usher me out. But one of the things that I need to do personally is to get more rest. I've been in transition from New Jersey to Virginia, and it's been a lot of moving parts. So I look forward to getting my groove and sleeping more. But professionally, I want to plan my calendar in such a way that I map out my vacations months before, my weekly routines. I schedule breaks. I schedule me time, schedule family time.
That's my weakness.
If I don't schedule it, then I probably won't do it. So I have to be more organized.
That's right. I concur on that one, GP.
Yeah. It's amazing how we leave ourselves out of the priorities of the day. Like, if we don't schedule time for lunch or schedule time we always feel like we're the ones that can take the hit, and we need to kind of prioritize ourselves in our schedule. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Breaks and lunch breaks should be a scheduled item.
Yeah.
I put it on my calendar.
Yeah.
Break from 12 to 2. And someone says, hey, can I meet with you real quick at 1:30? I said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm scheduled. I'm already scheduled for that. Yeah. I'll see you at 2:30. Because what we keep doing is, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So that breaks up your break, right? So schedule your breaks and hold to them.
Absolutely.
Aren't we still with corporate America supposed to get 2 15-minute breaks during the day and at least a 30-minute lunch? Wasn't that how it?
At
Because
least,
I
yeah.
don't
You don't
see.
work for them, you work for God.
Yeah, but I'm saying for those who even when I was doing full-time physical therapy, I don't remember getting any 15-minute breaks. It's like they're not given. I guess you just have to take it.
Well, years ago when I was young, I had a welding job. And with those factories where they blow the whistle, blow the whistle to lunchtime, blow the whistle, whatever. Well, whenever we got a break, it was for 15 minutes, and almost everybody went to the locker room and went to sleep because it was like, this is the only time I'm going to be able to make it through the rest of the day. A lot of us have a lot more leeway with break times. We can choose the best break time, but the thing is, we have to take the break time. I have to I struggle with this every day. I sit down in the morning, I do my to-do list, and then I actually schedule break. It says BREAK.
Oh, good.
When that time comes, okay, whatever time it is, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever, I am scheduled. People will call me. Hey, I called you at 12:30 and you didn't answer. I'm scheduled. I'm on my break. Because if you keep giving it up, you're back to pedal to the metal again.
Yeah.
So
running yourself in the ground.
Yeah. So
okay,
I hope this was helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
I know I'm trying to.
Very, very.
Yeah, I think we all need to constantly be reminded of this. And as we're wrapping up, I just want to share one more thing. I know I've shared this personally. One of the things I've done is I'm working on my journey to become a minimalist, because I've learned that the fewer things I have around me, even physical things, has really transformed my life in terms of having fewer things to manage, fewer things to clean, fewer things to wash. I mean, and it was something that I kind of like, because we live in a society where it's not just about doing, it's also about getting. And in that getting comes more responsibility that creates more doing. And then, it creates this vicious cycle. So just trying to pare down as we pare down our schedules, pare down our possessions, pare down, the things that clutter our spaces. You'd be surprised at how much that helps everything else.
Very good. Very good. I started that. You've here in the media center. We were just talking the other day. Me and the guys were saying, you know what? We got too much junk around here. Really. And I saw Mr. Martin, he came in for his recording session. I should have taken a picture of that, by the way.
Yes. That's like
him at the mic, doing his voiceover. Anyway, I just said, we need to order a dumpster to throw out all this stuff that's been accumulating.
Hold on, before you throw it away, give it to a needy church.
Oh no, I'm talking about stuff that doesn't work anymore. You know how that stuff piles up. So it's part of that minimalist message there that Tasha, and I'm doing that personally. I know a real minimalist who says he doesn't buy a garment unless he gives away too. So if he goes to shop for a shirt, he knows that he's either committed of giving something else away, okay, or not buying that shirt until he's given something away.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's kind of like keeping an equilibrium. And most minimalist people, it is a movement. They say that it takes so much stress and so much anxiety off of you because you have less to manage in your life.
Yeah.
Which is a good idea.
All right. Wow. This has been great. I feel like this is something we probably need to do periodically.
Therapeutic.
Yeah. It's like we need this reminder because like you said, Tally, we'll get off of here.
Yeah.
And then go right
back to
like, everything was nice.
But I got a recording session in like 45 minutes.
We're all looking at our to-do list like,
yeah, I got homework right now.
I want to thank my colleagues for jumping in with some real good tips and realism about your life, because I think our listeners can appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for this topic and leading out. It's been great discussion. All right. So I guess to summarize everything that we've said, slow down. It's okay. Slow down. Sometimes we say life is short. So we think that means we got to do everything. No, sometimes it means slowing down and enjoying those things that are most important. And so we hope that.
I'd like to know from our listeners how many have learned something from this and share with us your ways of coping with a hectic life.
Email us. Maybe we'll talk about some of them in a future podcast, because I think we learned a lot from each other. We have similar experiences, similar lifestyles. And Share with us what you're doing. Email us upset@aecsda.com or put them in the chat as you're watching this. All right, crew. It's been another great one. We'll see you back here next week. Same time.
Yay.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Don't forget to slow down.